March 18th, 2019. A quiet suburban neighborhood in Ohio. No noise, no chaos, no warning. Until 2:14 a.m. Back in the next morning, a 911 call came in. A woman whispering, "Someone is inside my house." Then silence. When police arrived, the front door was locked, and inside they found Nancy Guthrie, unconscious, no visible stroke, no forced entry. But something felt wrong. Because this wasn't just a back-end index pointing right. It was something far more disturbing. Nancy Guthrie, 42, a school counselor, known for her calm nature, kind, helpful,
police
quiet,
entering now.
She lived alone in a modest house. Neighbors described her as back-end index pointing normal, nothing unusual. No enemies, no public conflicts. Just routine. Morning coffee. Work. Evening walks. A life so predictable that nothing seemed out of place. Until that night. The 911 dispatcher later described the call as back-end index pointing right. Strange. Not panic, just controlled. Nancy didn't scream. She whispered. Back-end index pointing right. I think someone is watching me. The line stayed open for 12 seconds. Then no footsteps, no crash, no sound, just silence. Police arrived within. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The door was locked from inside. Windows intact. No signs of forced inside. Nancy was found on the living room alive. But unconscious. Nothing was stolen. No broken items. No obvious struggle. But investigators noticed something unusual. Back-end index pointing right. The furniture was slightly moved. Not chaotic. Just adjusted. As if someone had been there. Didn't want to be noticed. At first, police considered heavy check mark, medical emergency. Heavy check mark, panic attack. Heavy check mark, sleepwalking. But one thing didn't. Nancy had made a call. She knew someone was there. Nancy regained consciousness. But her story made things worse. Back-end index pointing right. I saw someone standing in the hallway. No face, no voice, just a presence. And she said something that changed everything. Back-end index pointing right. It didn't move. But I felt watched.
Yes, the pressure is consistent. No hesitation.
Not chased.
See this loop
Police checked nearby.
One
camera across the street captured at 1:58 a shadow approaching the house. But here's the problem. Back-end index pointing right. No one. No fingerprints. No fingerprints. No DNA. It was as if. Back-end index pointing right. The intruder. Nancy was discharged. But weeks later, stayed open. Something new happened. Back-end index pointing right. Nancy. No return address. Received a letter. Inside. No return address. Just one line. Inside. Back-end index. Just one line.
This is our key suspect, J. Ray.
The letter changed.
Everything points here.
Right.
The letter changed.
This photo links him to the warehouse.
Nancy
Good. Cross-check his financials.
On it. This is breaking fast.
You weren't supposed to wake up. No return address. No fingerprints. But one thing. No return address. Back-end index pointing stood out. The handwriting. Back-end index pointing familiar. The handwriting. Nancy tried to remember. It looked familiar. That night, Nancy tried to remember. That night, suddenly, that shadow. Something clicked. And suddenly, back-end index pointing something clicked. I've seen that index pointing before. I've seen that posture before. Insider life. Not outside. Police reopened the case. Police reopened the case. They looked closer. This time, at Nancy's they looked closer. Her job. At Nancy's past. Her contacts. Her job. Her records. Her contacts. And one name appeared again. And one name appeared again. Back-end index pointing right. Back-end index pointing right. Daniel Cross. A former patient. Years ago. A former patient. Nancy had reported. Years ago. Nancy had reported him. He lost his job. His reputation. He lost his job. His future. His reputation. Investigators found something. Daniel had been watching Nancy. Tracking her routine. For months. Learning her routine. But why didn't he attack? This wasn't about attack. This wasn't about pointing right. It was about index pointing right. Daniel didn't want Nancy dead. Daniel didn't want her to feel something. He wanted her to feel something worse. There were no forced entry signs. Back-end index pointing right. Back-end index pointing right. Years earlier. Nancy had given a spare key. Daniel had stolen it. And kept Daniel had stolen. Waiting. And kept it. He entered quietly. That night, he stood in the hallway. Quietly. Watching. He stood in the hallway. Not moving. Watching. Not speaking. Not moving. Just waiting for Nancy to notice. Back-end index pointing right. He didn't attack. Back-end index pointing right. He didn't attack. Back-end index pointing right. Back-end index pointing right. Nancy froze. Nancy froze. Her body reacted before her mind.
Sir, you are under arrest. Please turn around.
Back-end index pointing right.
Not from violence.
You
have the right to remain silent.
Not from violence. Before losing consciousness. Before losing she dialed 911. She dialed 911.
Where were you on the night of the
she was
fistfight?
afraid to make a sound. She was afraid to make a sound.
Watching TV.
He was still there.
Can anyone verify that?
Left the same way.
No,
left
I
the
was
same
alone.
way. Quietly entered.
What time did you get home?
No noise.
I understand the situation.
Gone, just for months.
Gone. I was at home.
There was no proof. There was no
until
proof.
one day.
There's no
until
evidence.
Police tracked online.
Police tracked online.
Someone's
searching.
Back-end
index pointing right. Back-end index pointing cause unconsciousness. Can fear cause unconsciousness. Back-end index pointing right. Back-end index pointing right. Shadows. Do cameras detect shadows? The IP address. The IP index pointing right. Back-end index pointing right. Police moved fast. Daniel was arrested without resistance. Almost satisfied. Calm. During interrogation. During interrogation, but his reason admitted everything. Everyone. But his reason back-end index pointing right. Back-end I didn't want to kill her. Right. I wanted her to feel what I felt. I wanted her to feel what I felt. But she never returned to that house. But she never returned. Never slept with lights off. Never slept. Never felt alone again. Never felt alone again. Because she knew. Because she index pointing right. Back-end index pointing right. Sometimes don't leave physical scars. Don't leave physical scars.